Hi, it's Myra with Boutique Paint. I'm working today on the second tray. I have a video on the first tray I did, and they should be back to back, or at least pretty close together in the YouTube feed. This one is a little narrower, and I'm going to do a little trick with one of the stamps and using two inks on top of each other. I don't know if you can see this. This is just one ink and this is two inks, and it kind of gives you a little bit of an effect of it being, you know, a little bit more 3D. So to get started, what I did is I marked out the halfway point on my tray. Don't freak out that I'm writing in purple ink. These are disappearing pens. If you've seen any of my other videos, I use these a lot to mark out things. Disappearing ink, I should say. It will disappear. Actually, on this, it's disappearing pretty quickly, so I had to remark pretty fast. But they can last up to 48 hours. Don't freak out if it's still sitting there, but if you need to get it removed, you can just use a little bit of water and get it wet and it'll disappear. So what I'm going to start with is my first ink, and I'm using the Ranger inks, Tim Holtz, because these are what I had of two different ink colors. These are a little bit different inks than Iron Orchid Designs inks. I'm going to clean these up. They're, I want to say, a little bit more pigmented. So they need a little bit more drying time, basically. I'm not sure what the makeup of them are compared to Iron Orchid Designs inks, but they are a little different. I just had these, so I wanted to jump on real quick and do this. So you're going to need to let these dry if this is the ink you're using. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp. The reason why I marked the halfway point on these is because I'm going to work out from each of these points. I'm using the Evergreen stamp today. I love this little sprig. It's quite cool. And I don't care if I'm overlapping, because that's kind of the point of what I'm doing today anyway. So I'm going to stamp this out, so you don't have to sit here and watch. Well, I'll do the corner. I'll wrap around the corner first, and then we'll do the magic of video and fast forward. This is turning out cute. Loving it. Let's see. I do want to cover that part up. So you can use your mask for this. I'm just going to grab a piece of paper, and I'm going to have it go a little bit of overlap, and then I'm going to do just part of the stamp. Yeah. And then I'm going to start here, and I'm going to work it my way here and then up, just like I did. If you ever need to clean these thin mounts, a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a paper towel will clean them up, and we'll get them really nice and sharply cleaned up. As you're going, you can just wipe them down with either a baby wipe or a paper towel. have a tendency to goober. Okay, so I'm just going to continue on. I'm going to stop right now, and then I'll come back to you when this is finished, stamped out, and dried to show you the second part. Okay, I lied. I'm jumping on here real quick, back on here. I wanted to show it to you before we stamped and that it's wet. And I'm not 100% sure if you can see, but it's kind of beaded up. So it's going to take a little time to dry. But the other thing I wanted to say real quick was, I know a lot of people weren't able to get the Woodland Christmas transfers. Well, let me tell you, the stamps are fabulous, and the stamps are reusable. And so they're not just a one-time project. And obviously you could cut up the woodlands all over the place, and there's lots of content in them. But there's also lots you can do with the stamp, and I wanted to point that out because this is just one piece of the evergreen stamp, and it did all of this. And so, you know, you can keep using it for years and years and years. So that's what I would like to point out too, is the stamps are fabulous. So if you don't have the Christmas stamps, you're going to be using them for years. You're going to be using them for tons of years of crafting and gift making. So keep that in mind. So we'll be back when this is dry. Okay, so now we have let the ink dry on this piece. I was kind of experimenting with combinations of ink. These are double stamped, 2 different colors of ink. And I did them on gift cards because if you're going to experiment, you might as well make something with what you're experimenting with. I'm kind of liking this middle one the best as far as contrast, so I think that's the one I'm going to do. When I was stamping, keep in mind that your thin mounts can also be used for a work surface to keep ink from going onto your counters or whatever surface you're using. So I'm going to set these aside. If I were to do this again, I have to say I am using the Ranger inks right now, but I would go ahead and mix up 2 different colors of the Newgrass ink of Iron Orchid Designs. The reason being is it's formulated for what I'm doing. It's formulated for doing stuff on craft or on wood products and on paint products. So it just would have absorbed a lot faster. This took probably 12 hours to completely dry. It's just a different ink formulation. So I'm using the 2 different color inks, and the ones I'm using, but like I said, I would use Iron Orchid next time. But these are the 2 I'm using for this. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over what I already stamped, but I'm going to just kind of angle it a little bit to give it kind of a 3D effect. So you don't want it to be right on top. You want to kind of be a little tweaked. And if you've watched the sisters videos, which I'm sure all of you have, you will know that they are always talking about imperfections okay. This is definitely one of those things. Oh, I got ink everywhere. This is one of those cases where it definitely lends itself. So I'm just offsetting it, and it doesn't even have to be a little bit. It can be a lot, but you can see it's just kind of adding to and giving a little bit more dimension to the first stamping. If you want to know how to make this tray, you can look it up on the other tray video that I did, and it actually shows the how-to on doing the tray. The only thing I'm kind of lining up is I'm kind of lining up the stem, this part, kind of. You're still a little bit offset, but you can just kind of tweak it one way or the other. But I'm really liking the way it's got that 3-dimension look to it. Now I put a piece of paper on this last time, so I'm gonna do it again this time. And I could use my masking for this, but it doesn't need to be quite as precise. So I'm just gonna do it this way. So you don't really have to ink it up each time. Depends on how intense you want the ink, but once again, because it's not something that's going to be, doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It wouldn't hurt it to have, you know, kind of different variants in the color. Okay. I'm going to stop the video right now, and I'm going to finish this up so you don't have to watch me go all the way around, and we'll go from there. So I finished going around the outside of this with my second color, and now I decided that I want a little something here and here, and so I thought the pine cone would be a fun little thing to put there. Just a reminder to condition your stamps before you use them. And what that does is it helps the ink or the paint to grab onto the stamp. Sometimes we get a little excited with our new products. None of you feel this way, I know. But this one does. You know, we grab our product, we pull it out of the package, we start stamping. It's really best to condition them. And this is 220 sandpaper, and you're just roughing it up a little bit. And then you can wipe it down with a baby wipe or to rinse it under the sink. It just gives it a little bit something extra to grab onto, and it makes a better impression. And what reminded me of it is, let me show you here, is I was practicing my, wanted to see what the pinecone would look like, but I was also kind of checking colors. This is what the first impression. This is the second impression. This one, I hadn't conditioned the stamp, but the color for some reason stamped better. Then I conditioned the stamp, and you can see here that it just worked better. So it just kind of gives it something to grab onto. So grab the brown ink and just kind of get in there, and also pay attention when you're inking to make sure that you're getting ink on the entire stamp too. I think I took more ink off on that one than I put on. Just kind of overlap just a smidge onto the green. See that the stamp was a smidge wet still, so I'm going to grab a paper towel. Of course, the paper towels are clear across the room. I'm going to dry it off. After I'm done with this, I will let it dry and then seal it with whatever sealer your paint you have, whatever, you know, depending on what paint you're using. You can use wax, you could use like a flake spray paint or sealer to spray over the top. You can see that I got a little bleed over because it does take so long for this particular ink to dry. But pretty cute, huh? Anyway, if you are interested in any of these products, you can go to our website at www.boutiquepaint.com. Thank you for joining me.